the fall of Ghani government was so rapid and unexpected that everybody was thrown into confusion, including, I think, the Taliban. They were not expecting such a rapid change of government, and they were not ready. Now the effort is underway to try to come out of that confusion, but that is not really going very well, and I think that's something that I think we should focus. But the problem is that confusion is only a symptom. The real issue is the substance. And there are two things which I think are of immediate concerns. One is the humanitarian needs that Afghanistan has. And the other is the macroeconomic management of the country to stabilize the society. The humanitarian needs is dire. Of the 34 million people of the population, more than 50%, around 18 million or more, are living under the poverty line, which means only less than $1 a day. And the winter is coming. There has been one of the worst drought in 4 years. And so the assistance on humanitarian needs, including on medical supply, because many people have been displaced out of the conflict, is one thing which has to be dealt with immediately. The other is the macroeconomic management. When Taliban went in, the ministries were evacuated, the total governance structure went down. And now the Taliban has to really manage the country as a whole, not just the security, but the economy and everything. With some of the key Taliban members under sanctions, and also a group called Haqqani Network, which is part of the Taliban, under sanctions, the US government has frozen the bank assets of Afghanistan in the United States. And in similar vein, the IMF and World Bank have stopped assistance. This means there's no cash. They cannot pay for the necessary payments, nor provide salaries for the people. And this, if left alone, could lead to the collapse of the economy. And the collapse of the economy, and particularly coming at the time of winter with the freezing environment, could lead to a civil unrest. And this is going to be an extremely difficult situation, and this has to be done immediately. The worst thing would be to have a destabilization of the country. Afghanistan is a huge country. The land area is 1.7 times of that of Japan, more than double that of the United Kingdom. And it's not easy to sort of control the whole territory. So if the security situation deteriorates, then there are more than 20 terrorist organizations in the region, and they might be able to make use of that. So stabilizing the country is going to be critical. The UN has about 5,000 people working in the country, but about 80% of them, or 70 to 80% of them, are Afghan people. The Taliban's problem has been, Taliban takeover's problem was that people were not quite sure whether these Afghan people, who used to be really the core of the international efforts to help Afghan people, would be allowed to work. Now, only recently, the Foreign Minister Motaki had informed the United Nations system in Afghanistan that everybody can work to help and deal with the humanitarian situation. So that is a big progress, big step forward. And the other good thing is that Secretary General Guterres immediately saw that the humanitarian situation is the most immediate and pressing issue. And he organized an international conference on humanitarian assistance to Afghanistan on the 13th of September. And there had been a large amount of pledge, over $1 billion. And at the same time, Taliban let in the visit of the head of leading UN agencies, including the Humanitarian Assistance Agency called OCHA, the WHO, and the refugee organization UNHCR. And all these people had been assured of full cooperation and full security for the work of the United Nations. So it sounds good, but the issue is whether they can deliver on their words. And, with the confusion and difficult security situation, we really hope that the Taliban can help the work of the UN people, including, and I stress, important Afghan staff who can actually reach the people on the ground. The performance is mixed. There have been some positive signs, but there are also disappointing signs, sometimes worrying signs. The Taliban is a huge organization, and it has many people, of course, from there who have different thinkings and ideas, perhaps. And there may be people who have very traditional ideas who may not understand the international implications or long-term implications to the society of what they're doing. And we, the international community, needs to help them with two things. One is to clearly send a message continuously that they have to be inclusive, they have to reach out to all groups, including women. This message has to continuously be made and stress the importance. The other thing is, we should not be punishing Taliban for their victory. We should try to help the leadership who wish to change the country into something respectable, something acceptable to the people, with all these considerations that they have mentioned and committed at the very beginning. You can only strengthen those Talibans who are thinking in the right direction by helping them, not by punishing them. The most important thing is to have a serious, cool-headed, calm dialogue to communicate. And I think the United Nations have started that effort. Martin Griffiths, who is the head of OCHA, who went in to have dialogue with Taliban to allow humanitarian workers to work in the country, had a good discussion. I also understand that Filippo Grandi, who is the head of the refugee organization, UNHCR, similarly had a good discussion. But I have not heard yet that many of the sort of former donors, including the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, the EU, Japan, have had such good talks yet. They have communicated, and they have made some arrangements which would allow them to, for instance, bring some of their Afghan staff back out of the country and so on and so forth. But there has not really been serious dialogue with the Taliban and the key member countries, key countries in the international community. I worked on Afghanistan for 5.5 years. First as a deputy, then 4 years as the head of the UNAMA, the UN mission in Afghanistan. And I felt a lot of things in helping the Afghan government take on its own effort to build their own country. I think the most important thing that we should remember, not just in words, but really with heart, is that a country has to be built by their own people. That the ownership of efforts to build a country is probably the most fundamental thing that we have to respect. I'm not saying that, our efforts in Afghanistan was really bad, or that, we didn't think of the Afghan ownership. That's not true. We always thought of Afghan ownership as the primary consideration. But if you look with cool-headedness as to what was trying to be created, for instance, the centralized governance structure, administrative structure, did it really work with a country like Afghanistan, where the local independence or the, if you like, ethnic groups in the localities had their own way of governing the political and social situation? And if you sent a governor to a locality saying that he is the most capable, but if he had no roots in that region and he's going there disrupted the existing political and social structure, power structure, what would happen? The other thing that I think we really need to consider is the issue of absorption capacity of the country. In 2002, when the international community went in to help Afghanistan, we poured in lots of money, cash, into the community and society. Not just through ODA, but many militaries brought in a lot of cash in order to smooth out the community relationship. When I first went to Kabul, I was stunned with the contrast. On the one hand, you saw really poor districts. Then on the other, you saw a row of palaces being built. And I wonder, who owned these palaces? And these are the people who had made profit through working with the international community. So when you see that more than half the population is under poverty line, with so much money having poured in, of course, during the combat, you can't really build very much. So, I'm not blaming this, but, you would want to know how perhaps you could improve on the impact of international assistance on the thinking of people, and how one could really try to help the most vulnerable. I think Japan has actually very important role that it could play because of Japan's own idiosyncrasy, or Japan's comparative advantage, if you like. Many of the countries who have large influence in Afghanistan have some baggage from the past, or a political relationship, or either they're neighbors, or they have had huge dealings politically with the country. Japan has not. It is very unique among the larger countries who have interest in Afghanistan, that it is totally impartial, that its action is not politically oriented. And so it actually gives a lot of relief and confidence on the part of the Afghan people, including the Taliban, that whatever Japan does is purely for Afghanistan and Afghan people. And Japan has also had a lot of track record of assisting Afghanistan. For the first years of assistance after 2002, Japan was the second largest donor for many years. And even now, they're the third or fourth largest cumulatively. And I think also Japan can probably take initiative in garnering support for economic and developmental assistance, like they have done in the past in 2002 and 2012, when they hosted ministerial meetings to assist Afghanistan. First thing that has to be done is to really, this is something that other countries are doing, so is to humanitarian assistance in collaboration with the United Nations. That's one. The second thing, which I think could be unique to Japan, is for Japan to talk to the countries in the region, to talk to key donors like the United States and the UK, who have had difficult experience in Afghanistan, but then to bring them together. Japan can do this in collaboration with probably United Nations or the EU, who I think are also well placed to do similar things. The Afghanistan issue is a huge issue. It's a highly political issue. So I think we have to look at the comparative advantage of organizations like Sasakawa Foundation or the NGOs. And what are they? First of all, they can be very informal. They can work on the ground and have access to the people. I think those are two, and they're very nimble. Large-scale things would have to be done by, for instance, the United Nations in helping the people, but in addition to or supplementing and in collaboration with those people, The NGOs can, for instance, help resolve local conflicts. Because I'm sure that integrating Taliban into the community and maybe also accepting the Taliban accepting the former Afghan officials and soldiers is not going to be easy. And in some cases, it may lead to conflicts. And I think some impartial mediator or facilitator could help. The other thing is to help the vulnerable. Always, I found that even with the United Nations, it's not always possible to reach out to every community. Although we had 5,000 people, right? So where there are specific needs, something that perhaps NGO can really promote its own concept which define their work, then they can reach out to those communities or to a group of people. I usually cite the example of, say, women's education, for instance. It takes a lot of efforts, and women's education is critical in any society. But governments usually, although they try to help, cannot do things in the community as much as they should. And that's the kind of thing that the non-governmental organization can do because they are much more flexible, more nimble, and they can reach out.